Hello, welcome to Warley Model Railway Club. Bit of a change for me, I'm this side of the camera rather than filming Paul for a change, and Paul's filming for us, so thanks to Paul. And tonight I'm going to introduce John Parry. John's one of our trustees and he's agreed to help me build a Parkside 7mm wagon. So this is a British Rail 12-ton pipe wagon. So John, can you go through the box and tell me what's in there?
This is one of the easier kits that Parkside make, being an open wagon. Just have a look in the box. Important things are the instructions, of course, which I would recommend you read, even if you built a lot of them, which I have. There is an exploded diagram which also shows where the lettering goes for various periods. In the box we've got a collection of plastic mouldings. Get the bag open. Two sides, two ends, a few other bits and pieces which we'll come to later, and the floor, which is the important piece. Sole bars, the stiffening underneath the floor, which doesn't actually show, and 3 sprues of various other small parts. These tend to be common to a number of kits, and you may well find that there's a few bits on them which aren't required. This kit, the sole bars and the underframe is moulded in black, which is quite useful because some of the earlier ones were moulded in grey, and I always paint those before they assemble them. Also in the box is a pack of couplings, and this one includes some white metal castings for vacuum pipes and a pack of buffers. Now, I don't know whether you can see in the film, but there are in fact 6 buffers. There are 4 the same and 2 with a projection on, which are used for end-door wagons, which we don't want with this one. There's also 2 axles of Peco wheels and bearings, and some very neat water slide transfers. Well, the first thing to do is to assemble the body. So we'll start by cutting the parts out and cleaning them up. The sides are already cut out. The 2 ends we need to cut off the sprue. Now you can either do this with a knife, a pair of cutters, or I always prefer to use a coping saw or a piercing saw. If you just bear with me while I put the blade in, maybe we should have done first. Tell you what, while I'm doing this, Andy, you want to just rub those projections off with a file. Yeah. Probably need those out as well. Although, leave them on for now, I think the floor sits on top of it. That's a rather old set of well-worn needle files, but they work very well on plastic. It's fine cutting with a saw. You get a much neater cut than if you do it with a knife, and there's very little cleaning up required. There's also a bit of cleaning up to do on the floor. There's quite a big bit there which we can take off, and 2 little bits on the side.
There you go, John.
So if you want to do that, Andy, I'll see if I've got another flat file, I'll do that. There's a couple of moulding pips on the floor which we can take off as well. I'll take that off with a saw, it's quite a big one. There's 4 moulding pips on there which probably don't matter, and I will take them off. They won't be in the way of anything, but I just like to file them off. I find the best way to make sure the sides are perfectly flat is just to rub it on a piece of very fine carborundum paper. That's 400 grit on a flat surface. Need to do anything on the sides. They look fine. On this particular kit, just say in the instructions, the ends go outside the sides. Most open wagons, the corners are mitered, so it is important that you read the instructions. We'll have a little bit of a dry run first, just to make sure everything fits. That's going to be fine. And the length looks about right as well. So I think we can crack the bullet and start. This is Slater's Mech Pack solvent. It's not one of the stronger ones. I find it's ideal for these kits. Just applied with a couple of brushes. The floor in all Parkside kits fits on top of this ridge on the end. And the first thing we do is to cement that on. And we'll follow the kit instructions. One end followed by the 2 sides. Actually, we do need those pips on the sides taken off.
Okay.
Andy will do one, I'll do the other. Just stress the importance of trying parts before you put any solvent on. There is a little step there where the end of the buffer beam is, and that the side fits on that. I'm just going to cement the corner at the moment. I'm not going to go along the full length. You have to be careful you don't get any solvent run out and just get your fingers on it, because it makes an awful mess. If that does happen, just leave it. Once it's hardened, you can then start cleaning it up. If you try and do anything while it's still soft, you'll only make a worse mess. Only putting a little bit of solvent on for now. We can, once it's all assembled, we can give it a little bit more. In a lot of Parkside kits, the floor is just a fraction short, which doesn't really show. It does help to get the kit assembled neatly. This one, the sides appear to be very slightly short. Just let that harden for a minute or two. And then I'll put a little bit more solvent in the corners, also some down the edges of the floor. Now the next operation is to fit the sole bars. They have to be sprung in. If you try and do that now, there's a good chance of distorting the body. So I'm going to leave that overnight to set. I always leave it on a flat surface, which actually that's the front of an old record cabinet. Any flat surface will do. A table like this is perfect. while that's hardening, we can assemble the couplings. Parkside actually recommend fitting the couplings before you do anything else, but I never do it that way. In this bag we've got 2 springs, the coupling hooks and 6 links, piece of plastic rod for the brake gear, some white metal castings and some little brass etchings for the detail parts. There's some lamp brackets in there and some other things. So carefully put those back.
Yeah, put those back in the box then for me.
Put those back in the box. And I'm going to get my trusty piercing saw again. Just cut the coupling hooks out. And to be very careful because I don't really want to cut notches in the table.
Let's clean this up, John, while you...
Yes, you can do, Andy. Now I always like to file them a little bit of a radius around because they're actually etched flat, and coupling hooks of course weren't flat. These hooks are actually a little bit oversized, but they look okay and they work quite well. That's fine. Yep. They're easy enough to assemble. Before we do that, I'm just giving them a little polish as I'm going to chemically blacken them. You can of course paint them, but that does tend to stick them up. And I have actually seen people use a black felt tip pen, which is quite effective. All we need to do is just twist a couple of the hooks slightly like that, so that we can put an untwisted one in. Twist it back again. Sure it's not distorted. It says dropping it on the floor. The amount of bits my wife finds on the kitchen floor in the morning is nobody's business. With another one opened, we can go through that little hole on the top which isn't quite a complete hole. Twist it back up again. The important thing is to make sure that it will do that, otherwise they'll jam, and I always just give it a little nip to close the top up like that. The other one of course is exactly the same. What we're going to do now is just clean up the sole bar mouldings a little bit. They don't actually need very much, they're very nice mouldings. So I'll just rub off the high spots. These are basically just where they've been, the risers have been cut off in the moulds. That's something I've just noticed, that the instructions talk about putting the V-hangers on first. On some of the kits there is some location in the middle of the sole bar for them. There isn't in this one, so when we come to do it we'll put the brake shoes on first, just to make sure we get everything in line. I've cleaned that one up, I'll do that one off camera. So what we're going to do now is to cut out the axle boxes, these pieces. I'll just do a couple of them because they can actually move in the axle guards, and it's important that they are free to move. Having said that, I don't think I've ever built a Parkside kit where they weren't, but there's always a first time that we might need a little bit of adjusting. It does move, but I think it would benefit from just a little bit taken out of the axle box, which won't, that one's a bit freer. That's fine. That's it, so I'll do the other one, and that's basically I think all we can do for tonight. The only other thing is on this moulding, which is the stiffening underneath the floor, there are some mould pips on it which we'll take off so that it'll sit down nicely. That's fine. So basically there's nothing else we can do until the body is completely hard, I would leave it at least overnight. So I will clean up the other sole bar and cut out the other 3 axle boxes, and then in the next session we'll assemble the underframe, and it will actually then start to look like a wagon. Thank you.
Okay, thanks John for helping me with that. We'll see you the next part, hopefully next month.
Hopefully, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.